Hi. You are watching Shunte-Lei Reads, and I'm Shunte-Lei. And today we're talking about books. But of course we're talking about books. It's a book channel. But more specifically, in addition to the books that we'll be talking about, we are going to be doing a BookTuber Newbie Tag. And we're going to be answering some questions about how I got here in the first place. So I've watched some of these videos, and a lot of them ask some really good questions, but there were some other questions that I found myself asking, and so I decided to add some questions to the mix. If you see this video and you want to use these questions and you are new to BookTube, like in the way that I am, then feel free, go ahead. So let's get started into these questions. I started a BookTube channel because I read a lot of books, like most BookTubers, right? But not only that, I find it sometimes that I want to share a book, or I want to share what I find out or read, or something that I'm really excited to know. And sometimes I don't always have someone to share that with. And being on BookTube and just watching, first of all, just as a watcher, I see people with that same level of excitement and interest. And why not? It's a community, right? So I wanted to join the community and be a part to share my love and interest in books. My first book memory. My first book memory is about a book of seagulls. I was really young. I was probably about I was probably around 7 or 8 years old. And it wasn't specifically that I wanted to read this book about seagulls. It was, I wanted to be able to read fluently. And I know when you're 6 or 7 or 8 years old, you probably aren't thinking, yeah, I want to read fluently like my teacher or fluently like my parents. But I really wanted to be able to be a fluent reader. I read with a stutter, and it really was upsetting to me. I would read and I would get caught up in like letters and the pronunciation of words, and I wouldn't pause at commas and such. I was just not a fluent reader, and I didn't like that I couldn't speak fluently, and it was something that was a goal of mine from a very young age, to be able to communicate effectively. And I recognized at that time that I didn't have the ability to do that. So I don't even know how I got this seagull book, but it was in our home library. So I read it, and the book was pretty lengthy, but I practiced reading this book as a kid out loud to myself until I was able to read the book fluently, and not just remember all of the words, which can be a thing when you're a child, is you memorize your favorite books. This was a book that I had very little interest in. The goal was to find a book with a lot of words and to read the words so that you were able to be understood. So, because I would read and I wouldn't even really be able to understand myself. And I didn't have so much of a stutter, as I would get caught up in a sound. I would just fumble and get tongue-tied over these words. And it was embarrassing for me, when you're in class and your teacher chooses you to read and you can't get through about 4 or 5 words without fumbling or stuttering or not being able to make it past a sentence. And I didn't like the way that felt. So I would read that book every day until I was able to read it fluently. And then after I mastered that book, I just moved on and I started picking up other books. And it became learning experience for me, because I was able to learn a lot through reading. So that's my first book memory. Okay, so this is gonna come as a surprise to some people. Not to the people who subscribe to me, because if you're subscribed to me, you are an army of one. Because I do not have a lot of subscribers. But even to the people who actually know me, they'll be like, huh? Really? But my favorite book to movie adaptation is Harry Potter. And I know that sounds crazy, but that first movie, I felt like they got it so right. I hear people say that they disagree, that they got it so wrong. But after I read, and I have a story about how I fumbled onto the Harry Potter series, but I just feel like when I watched the movie, it it mirrored the book so well. And I was just so very pleased that they got it right. I mean, when I saw Hagrid, you didn't have to tell me that was Hagrid. Like, you knew. Like, if you read this book, you knew. And Harry Potter looked just the way I imagined. And all of the course of events, everything that happened, the train ride, the going to the train station, everything, it was what I expected. So that was my, I have others, but that is my favorite one because it was exactly the way that I had pictured it in my mind. My mind's up here. But yeah. Least favorite book of the moment is my least favorite book of the moment is The Fury by Alex Michaelides or Michaelides. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but this is the book. And I will say this, it is very well written, and it is my least favorite book of the moment because I think I had really high expectations for this book, and I heard a lot about this book. He is the author of The Silent Patient, and I'll say that I heard a lot of good things about The Silent Patient. So much so that I wanted to read something that he had written. Maybe I should have started with The Silent Patient. And from what I hear, that is probably what I should have done. But I saw this book, and I do a lot of thrifting, and I saw this at the Goodwill, and I was just like, what? Who read this and gave it up so quickly? I don't know. Maybe that should have been a sign that somebody had given it up so quickly. But I saw this book at the Goodwill, and I was just like, I'm not gonna pass this up. I'm going to get this, especially because I heard so many good things about The Silent Patient. I think it's kind of like I don't want to give the whole thing away, but it's kind of like a whodunit in a way. It doesn't start out like that, but it kind of ends up like that. And it wasn't until I got more insight into the narrators. See, I don't want to give too much away, but it wasn't until I learned more about who was actually narrating the story that I appreciated the story much more. I might read it again to get more insight about it, but no, it's my least favorite. But don't take my word for it, you know. In the words of LeVar Burton, go read it for yourself and see how you like it. Let me know. I think an unexpected interest for me would be science fiction. One of the science fiction, well, one really good science fiction book that I really, really like is Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card. I don't know exactly where that book is, but at the moment, but that, I really like that story. So just to give you, if you're interested, just to give you a brief rundown of what Ender's Game is about. If you haven't watched the movie, read the book because the book is way better. The movie doesn't do the book any justice at all. But there are these three children. They are very gifted. And they go to the school where they have to wear these monitors in their backs. Well, it's like in the back of their necks. And Ender, he has two siblings, an older brother and a sister. And his brother Peter is a hater. His brother, when I first read it, I was just like, I couldn't really understand, why doesn't his brother like him? You know, and I went back to review it, and I think that his brother really didn't like him because he saw how gifted his brother was. and that his brother was in fact probably smarter and more tactful in a lot of different ways. His brother is a bully, and he bullies him a lot. He abuses him. And when you're reading the book, you're like, Ender, why are you just letting him do this stuff to you? But I think he was really showing his brother some mercy. But not only is he bullied by his brother at home, he has a bully at school. This like really big kid that just is relentless, right? And there's a scene in the book where Ender is just like, I'm going to have to fight this bully. But when I fight him, I'm not just going to fight him to get rid of this bully. I'm going to fight him to get rid of any other bully that might have, machinations on my safety, So the bully corners him, and Ender plans this out so that they are in like this, secluded from other people, but also from authorities, but also so that other people could see and know what was getting ready to happen. Ender tore this bully up. Now in the book, Ender is a smaller kid, and this bully is described as being he's big. And so from that point on, Ender didn't have to worry about being a bully. Now these monitors that they have in their necks, they don't have them in permanently. They have them there, like the government is spying on them through these monitors. And you don't have them forever, because if you don't meet their standard, or if you don't have whatever it is that the government or the military is looking for, then that monitor gets removed. And his brother Peter had his monitor removed, and his sister had her monitor removed as well. But Ender had his in for much longer than his brother or sister. And in fact, he was chosen as one of the kids that would go on to battle school to essentially protect the world from this threat that these giant bugs that are called buggers. So that's my unexpected interest, is that I like sci-fi. Like, it's not my favorite genre. I'm a curious reader, and I think that as I read and pick up books that I wouldn't necessarily read, and that's kind of how I got started with the science fiction thing. I just picked up a book that I wouldn't have necessarily read, and I ended up really enjoying it. That's like the story of my life when it comes to books. So thank you for watching. This is my YouTube BookTuber Newbie Tag, and I can't wait to hear more from you. I'll see you guys soon.